There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
All right. And there he is. One of the best trainers in the game, ICEMAN John Scullys. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, good, man. What's going on?
Hey, it's fight week, man. It's fight week, so I'm excited. We got 2 days until Fury Usyk, and it's actually going to happen. I had doubts, Fury in the cut last time. I had doubts, but it's going to happen. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about Tyson and Paul, only because I just texted you. I was at the presser Monday at the Apollo, and I was surprised that it was. Well, I guess I'm not surprised. Tyson, it doesn't matter what he does now. He's just popular, and he's just going to bring fans in. Yeah. But listen, we got 2 days until Fury and Usyk, and Fury looks slim. He looks trim. I have a little clip, and there was really nothing said, but the final presser was today. They really didn't say anything. Very, very little words. The interesting thing, Fury never looked at him at the end where they had the usual stare down. He just didn't look at him. So this went on for like 2 minutes where Fury just looked at the crowd. So we all know what John Fury, his dad, did this week, headbutting the guy on Usyk's team, which is just an idiotic move.
Right.
But talk to me about this fight, man. What do you see happening Saturday?
Well, let me first say I'm a little upset because I'm supposed to be there.
I know.
Be there. I was going to be there, and literally 30 years ago, I was at the undisputed fight with Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield in Las Vegas, the first one. And so it occurred to me when we were heading over, we're getting ready to head over. I said, man, undisputed heavyweight title. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be right there. And then got canceled. So I'll be watching on TV just like everybody else. And it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's a huge fight, but I realize it's a huge fight for boxing people.
Yeah.
Not a huge fight like Ali Frazier was a huge fight for the world, right? Leonard Hearns, first fight. Kids in my school who didn't even know anything about boxing were talking about Leonard and Hearns, and they were 14 years old, right? No one is talking about. No one in a supermarket is talking about this fight. It's like invisible. It's just so weird. There's so many things going on in the world now that this is it's not even a major event in world terms. You know what I mean? And it should be. This is a huge fight. I mean, do
you think part of that is because it's two guys out on Americans, and in America it's just not that big? You think that could be part of it?
That's probably part of it. But also I just feel like, just people don't, there's so much going on, the internet, and you've got just the World Wide Web, and you're seeing cable. Back in the day, Leonard Hearns was big because we had 3 channels.
Yeah.
I didn't even have cable at that time, 1981. So now you've got 8,500, 200, 300, 6,000 channels, whatever it is. And there's just so much else going on. It's just, it doesn't have the, and maybe it's because I'm older, but when Leonard Hearns, I'll give you an example. Leonard Hearns, I left my house, and I was 14 years old, and I walked around my neighborhood like in a daze, right? Looking up at the sky towards the west, and I'm going, they're in Vegas right now. Like, everybody's there. They're getting ready to fight. This is the fight. Like, what's going on? I wish I could be there. And this one, it's just crazy. The fights now, they don't have that feel for me, and it's just different. It's kind of like Christmas. You lose, once you find out Santa Claus isn't real, it kind of kills everything,
Yeah, you're right. Although when we're 14, though, I know what you mean about that feeling. And there's a lot. I mean, they're not Americans. The fights in Saudi Arabia, there are a million things to watch now. but I don't
know, because you got guys like, it's the undisputed title, but I guess there's probably a guy for the WBA that's a regular champ or something, a silver, and people are going, "What about that guy? I thought he was champ."
right.
And
Yeah, I don't even keep up with that. The super champs, and I can't do it. I was like you, Scully. I used to know like the whole lineage of the heavyweight title, right up through when it got fractured, when there was WBA, WBC, but then it got to a certain point where it's ridiculous now. There's no way you can know where all these belts have gone, especially when they added regular champions and super champions and all this other nonsense.
It makes me hate boxing to a degree, right? I'm saying to myself, like, and I don't want to insult fighters. So number one, I don't want to say his name, but part of the reason is because I don't know his name. But there's a guy that I was reading. I had no idea he was, I think, middleweight, but I'm not sure. Maybe junior middleweight, but whatever. He's a world champion right now. And I'm like, I've never heard of this guy in my life. I don't know who he is. When did he become champion? And who did he beat? And I saw the thing the other day where they're elevating someone to a championship, Crawford or one of those guys. I don't know. But he's going to, like, in other words, if you say, man, hey, Roy Jones, man, who'd you beat for the title? Yeah, I beat Hopkins. Oh, wow, it's crazy. Muhammad Ali, who'd you beat? I beat Foreman. It was an epic fight, right? They're going to ask this guy, and he's like, well, I got an email, and they said, guess what? Like, we don't want that as fighters.
Yeah.
We don't want an email championship. Come on. Like, this is, they're elevated the guy. I guess he was regular champ, and now he's elevated to the real champ because somebody retired. So I know we're off track, but as far as the fight goes, I am excited about it, but I'll be excited Saturday
Right.
oh, guess what? And I'm actually going to New York. They're putting on a watch party in New York, and a bunch of guys are going. I think Iran is going, and Junior, and a bunch of guys. I remember Barkley, Junior Jones were going, and we're going to watch the fight in New York. I forget. I think it's on Long Island, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be cool. It's going to be a good group.
Now, you do know this is going to be an afternoon fight, right? These Saudi Arabia fights.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till like 2 days ago, because I was saying, man, I'm not going to get home till like 3 a.m, and they're like, no, you got to be there like 5:30 or 5 o'clock. So yeah, I know that. Yep.
So the fight itself, are you buying the whole Tyson Fury's in shape now, and he's taking this guy seriously, and he's going to do some damage? How do you see this fight playing out?
It's a tough fight to call, and it really is. My gut tells me that he's just too big. You're talking about he's fighting a guy who was a cruiserweight champion. The guy was a cruiserweight. So you can't overlook that, because it's not like he's moving up to fight a guy that's 225. I mean, he's fighting a guy like who was 270, monster, 6'9". You see them at the press conference or wherever they are, and you see the difference in size. It's massive. And one thing about Fury, he can be a joker and a clown, and his father disrupts things and everything, but he's smart. Like, he knows how to fight, and he knows how to use his weight. And the way he, like, when he came in heavy against Wilder, I was like, man, is he out of shape? What's going on? Turned out to be a genius move. Like, he mauled Wilder into defeat. Like, by the time he knocks Wilder out, Wilder was probably subconsciously happy that it happened, because he was probably so exhausted from the pace of the fight and the pushing. He knows how to put the weight on, and believe me, as a fighter, I can tell you that's very draining. It's I've had guys do that to me in the gym, sparring and fights, and yeah, it's rough. It drains you for sure.
Well, what about there's a lot of people that say Tyson Fury's just really damaged his body. He's had drug and alcohol problems. The funny thing is, he's the younger guy. I believe Usyk is older than him, but a lot of people think he's got a lot of miles on him. He's taken some punishment in some of his fights, that he's on the decline. He struggled with Ngannou his last fight. A lot of people think that Tyson Fury's on the decline. Do you buy into that?
I mean, the only indication of that is the Ngannou fight, right? That's, to me, that's the only thing that. But I don't think he trained at all for Ngannou. I think he looked at Ngannou as a joke. And I said that night, I said, if they fight again in 6 months, he kills Ngannou. He trains for real, he focuses, and he massacres the guy easily. I think it was probably a thing where it was about the second or third round when it dawned on him, like, man, this guy's better than I thought he was, and he's coming to fight, and I'm not ready. I'm not in good shape, you know? I don't think, one thing, boxing is turned into, and it always has been to a degree, but it's turned into Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, it's like, with the Ryan Garcia thing and all that, it's like, all right, now we're putting on a show. We're putting on a show. We're making you think one thing. We're making one thing, and I'm going to divert your attention, and I'm going to give you stories to write about the fight because we're trying to make money. We're trying to draw fans. We're trying every way possible to get another guy to pay the pay-per-view view, right? So I think he's intentionally been doing these things. But the reality is he's a world champion, heavyweight champion. He's training. He's in shape. He knows what he has to do. He's not a fool at all by any stretch. And he's going to be prepared. I would have to believe that.
Well, Tech Dad has a quote up here. He trains and fights according to the competition he faces. And that's what a lot of people say about Fury. It depends on who he faces. And this is obviously a big threat. And at least we don't know how the fight's going to turn out. But, I mean, physically, he looks different. He looks like he's a much more prepared guy than he was in his last few fights.
Yeah. And, I mean, and that goes to that. I would agree with that because that goes to what I'm saying about the Ngannou fight. I don't think he took Ngannou serious at all. Like, he looked at him as an easy joke of a fight. He obviously knows what he's not stupid. He knows who this guy. Usyk is good. Usyk is very good. And if he didn't, he'd be a fool. He'd be an idiot. You know what I mean? But the Wilder fights, especially the last one, showed me. He acts a little crazy, and people said that back then. They said, he's going for mental therapy or whatever he's doing. They said back then he was crazy, and he fooled them all. He fooled all of us, and that's just part of the master plan. Get them doubting my sanity, have them thinking I'm doing this, but in reality, these guys, it's not like they for him to do that, that would mean that instead of getting up and running in the morning, he's just going back to bed. He's rolling, and he's not doing that. I guarantee he's not doing that. He's no fighter in the world is doing that. Not at that level.
So you're leaning towards Fury in this fight?
I would. I think he's just too big. I think he's too big. I think he's smart, and I think he knows how to use that weight. And you're talking substantial weight difference. He's using that weight, and he's a naturally bigger guy. He's a monster. I saw him in person one time. He's a monster. Usyk is an average size heavyweight now, but he used to be a cruiserweight. That's
right.
Nothing can change that. He used to be, as an adult, he was a much smaller man.
So there's a question for you from Banana Bread. Mr. Scully, can you tell us about long-term effects of fighting punchers like Wilder? Beterbiev's partner screamed and ran off. Tim Bradley took a long time off recovering. Maybe Fury is affected too? ?
I mean, it's a funny thing. It's like there's no formula for every single guy. Like, there's no way you could say, if you've had 100 amateur fights, you're going to be burnt out. Because I knew guys who were burnt out after 50 amateur fights, and I knew guys who had 200 amateur fights, and they were, just getting ready to go pro, and in 4 years they're going to be a world champion. So it's hard to say. We don't really know. It's all speculation, but with Fury, like I say, other than the fight with Ngannou, which I don't think he took serious, I can't really say I've seen decline. I have really seen it. He's still good to me. He looks pretty good to me, other than that Logano fight.
You brought up the fact that you were supposed to be there. Obviously, you know, Artur was going to be fighting Bivol on June 1st. Is there any update with Artur with his knee? Have you heard from anyone in the camp? How's he doing?
No, I haven't talked to anybody. I know I was under the impression they were getting the surgery a few days ago.
Okay.
And so I'm sure, you know, I don't think they would wait, you know, so I'm sure they got it done. And, you know, one thing about Artur, I mean, he's going to do whatever it takes to get better. And, you know, I'm sure he's taking care of business, whatever he's got to do. So you know, he's like Superman. I mean, this guy's in unbelievable shape, and he knows how to get there. He knows how to maintain it. So I don't see any issues. And I don't know a lot about the injury, but I have a friend of mine who was a fighter who had the same injury. And he called me literally the same day the fight got canceled. He called me and he said, "Oh, I fought like 3 months later." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's not like an ACL.
Right.
Similar, but it's not. Like the ACL, you'll be out for a long time and you may never recover. You may never come back. But with this," he goes, "I'm not going to say it's minor, but he goes, it's very recoverable. You know, he's going to be fine."
Well, you know, obviously everyone, you know, hopes that he's going to be okay. I'm sure he is, and that's still the fight. That was the fight of the year for me. It was the number one fight. I mean, I had more hype for that fight when it was signed than I do right now for Fury Usyk. And Fury Usyk is big, but just me personally. But I want to keep talking about heavyweights because on Monday, I was at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. I was at the Tyson Paul presser. They're having a second one today. Scully, this is Netflix is winning, man. You know, people are debating, is this going to be a real fight? There were a lot of people at that presser. I think now Mike Tyson, no matter what he shows up for, if it was a ping pong tournament, he would draw people. They're fighting with 14-ounce gloves, I think.
And why?
It's like, a 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's stupid. I apparently am the only one on earth who is able to see through these things. It's ridiculous. Like, you remember, like, this is crazy. Like when Mayweather and McGregor fought.
Mm-hmm.
At least people thought it was like a real fight, and he's bigger and he's too strong. And I said, man, I didn't even watch it. I've still never seen it. I said, man, this is gonna be a joke. Floyd's gonna play with this guy. The guy's a novice. I don't care how big he is. He's still a novice. And you know, with this, I mean, with the 14-ounce gloves and the 2-minute rounds, to me that wiped out any interest I may have had. That wiped it out. Like, you're gonna get a guy, you know, Jake Paul, and he's a novice. He's a novice. Period. He's a novice. I don't care what anybody says. He's a novice. He's the definition of a novice, and he's gonna probably do well enough where he's gonna hang in there. And afterwards, people are gonna be like, "Yeah, man, he fought Mike Tyson. He hung in with Mike Tyson." People are gonna forget that Mike Tyson's 60 years old. They're gonna forget that it was 2-minute rounds, and they're gonna forget that it was big gloves. They're gonna forget all of that. It's insanity. I don't like I'm honestly probably the only person that is not interested in the fight. Like, I forgot it was happening till you mentioned it to me earlier when we talked on the phone.
Well, I think you're probably going to be in the minority because I don't look at it. I look at it as an event. Yeah. And I'm going to watch it. It's not a fight, even though, let's face it, in Texas. Well, let me ask you, how is it? And I know the answer is because it's boxing in Texas, but how is this a legit pro fight with 14-ounce gloves and 2-minute rounds? Has there ever been a men's fight that had these kind of rules? A pro fight?
Because they're making millions, and
exactly.
They dictate the fighters and the promoters. And this has been for years, right? The sanction, the state commissions, they don't have any say. They don't have any power at all. These guys tell them what's going on, right? Because if they ever said, "Oh, you have to wear 10-ounce gloves or else we're not sanctioning the fight. And they'll go, all right, we're going to go to Pennsylvania then. We're going to go to Lake City, and we're going to deprive you of $100,000, 100,000 people in the stadium or whatever it is, and all that money that's going to, generated at Ruby Tuesdays and McDonald's and 7-Eleven for the whole week. We're going to take that away from you. And then they go, well, all right, okay, 12-ounce gloves. We could do that. You have nobody is willing to challenge these people, so the fighters and, De La Hoya and even Ali, starting with Ali, he was probably the first one that could tell them what's going to happen. But once Tyson came along, I'm sure Don King has told plenty of commissioners, listen, just relax, sit back. We'll tell you what we're doing, and then you can announce it if you want, but we'll tell you what's going on because you're not telling us. I don't care about your rules. You know what I mean? And they've broken the rules every day. They break the rules, and nobody cares. It's a joke.
Yeah, especially in Texas. And so I'm at the presser, and I'm listening to Jake Paul speak, and he had I forget what the exact words were, but he said something like, we've been calling each other out for years, and he's looking to stop me. And I'm thinking, wait, what? Mike, what? Did I miss something?
You know what it is? And when I saw that quote, and I thought it was funny, like, to me, he's trying to sound like he's a veteran, like he's an old head. He's a veteran of the game. It's like, you're a novice. No matter how you slice it, you are a novice fighter. There's a reason you have not been fighting. Even when he fought the guy Fury, even when he fought him, he was even saying that Fury's not that good. They thought they were going to win that fight, obviously. They were more shocked than anybody on earth that they lost that fight because they didn't perceive Fury as a threat. That's why they fought him. If they thought they were going to lose, they wouldn't have fought him. In a million years, they wouldn't have fought him. So, now they're at the point where it's a win-win because even if Tyson decapitates him, he's still going to come away with, more money than he could ever spend in his whole life. And, but like I say, I'm apparently the only one, but I hate this aspect of boxing. I despise, and look at Mike. I don't know if I can say we're friends, but if he sees me, hey, what's up, John? He's called me on the phone before. We know each other, but I'm not a fan of this at all. Like, I don't like where we're going with all of this. I don't like it at all.
Well, there was another press conference today. You see on the screen, Adrian Broner and Blair Cobbs. Don King is still promoting Scully. He's still there. He's promoting this fight.
He still got the jacket.
He's still got that. I wonder if he washes that thing.
I was thinking the same thing.
They fight June 7th. I got to tell you, man, I think that the press conferences that these guys have are probably going to be better than the fight because they're relatively entertaining. Blair Cobbs is he hasn't fought in 2 years. And he had a good fight. He beat Maurice Hooker. He looked decent in his last fight. That was 2 years ago. And Adrian Broner, he apparently left Kevin Cunningham. He fought sometime last year. He fought a lawyer. I remember the guy was a lawyer, and he started to show like the physical decline. You have any thoughts on this as a fight?
I mean, it's insane. like these are like talked about events, right? And Adrian, I thought Adrian Broner, I forgot about it. I thought he was retired. I didn't realize he was still fighting. It's bizarre, like that he's still around, and in my mind, I'm like, and nothing against him, but it's like, why do people care? Like, I don't understand at all. Like this fight to me has no impact. Whenever there's a fight, my level of importance on it depends on this. What impact does it have on the division that it's being fought in?
Right?
My only concern. And this fight has no impact at all on the division, at all. The same with Jake Paul, obviously with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, it has no impact. These guys aren't fighting Tyson Fury next, like if we get murdered. And so, we're in this circus atmosphere. We're in this wrestling, and you have all these eyes. They say, "Oh, we have all these new eyes." These aren't the eyes I want, man. These aren't
Right.
and they're not. These aren't going to be people who can tell you about Salvador Sanchez. These aren't the people that can tell you about Leonard Hearns. I'm not a fan of it at all. Like, I'm really not.
Yeah, and I had to bring that up because I put that fight almost not quite on the level of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, but you're right. It's one of those fights that it doesn't impact the sport. What it does, well, the Tyson fight will make money. I don't know if this fight will make money, but I'm like you. The shocking thing to me is that Don King still has that jacket.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy that he's still. I think Broner is the last named fighter that he has. Don King is still. He's still in the sport, I guess, to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of like par for the course. Like,
yeah,
this guy who promoted the Rumble in the Jungle, yeah, he's still here. Yeah, he's here. And it's just weird. It's a weird thing. We're in a weird place, and I don't see it changing or going back to how it was. And and I don't know. Like I like being in boxing. I really like it, but I like it for all the reasons. I train fighters, and I'm with fighters that are fighting on ESPN and pay-per-view, and it's awesome. And I'm doing my reunions, and I'm raising one fighters, and I'm involved with a lot of stuff, and I like it. But slowly but surely, like, the game is regressing right before my eyes, and this is and it's not. I mean, people, if young people today knew what it was like when you could just watch Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon fights every week for free on network TV, and you were watching. There was no mismatches. There was no such thing as a mismatch. You were watching, Donald Curry and Marlon Sterling fought each other in it wasn't a world title fight. They fought for the title. That would never happen today. Like, that fight, importance-wise and historically and skill level is 10 times what Broner and the other guy is going to be, right? 10 times that. Yet, me and you and like 3 other people even remember that Curry and Starling fought a non-title fight before they fought the world title fight. And that fight was on free TV. It was on CBS. I remember on CBS, 12 rounds for the NABF title. And I think NABF and USBA, same fight. And it was a high-level, super-level fight. And nobody knows. And they made $40,000, $50,000 for it. And now we got guys making $600,000 for fights and almost $1 million for fights. And I'm like, I've never heard of you in my life. I don't even know who you are. Where's this money coming from?
Man, you bring up some memories. I mean, CBS, I loved Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy calling fights on CBS. And you're right, the level of fights, people don't get it. And I tell, like, the younger fans, we could watch fights on Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon, not at midnight, but in the afternoon. Name fighters, good fights, title fights. I remember Edwin Rosario and Jose Luis Ramirez, like it was both their fights, like it was yesterday. So it's just a different day.
I mean, think about it. Like, Boom Boom Mancini and Livingstone Bramble was on the same show as Gene Hatcher and Johnny Bumpus.
That's right.
On NBC. It was on Channel 30. Well, 30 here, NBC. Come on. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. It was a different day. And what else is funny that you said? Don King went from the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali versus Foreman, to Blair Cobbs and Adrian Broner in 2024. So
Crazy.
There you go. Now you got a guy fighting on June 6th, Stephen Butler.
Right.
It's a middleweight fight. Butler, I did some research. He's only, and that fight on ESPN? Is that televised?
Yes.
It is, right? Okay.
Yep.
He's only 28 years old. He's had a couple of title tries, and he was knocked out by Alim Kanuli about a year ago, and then you took over. What have you seen with him? He's only 28 with 2 title shots. I imagine you think he's got something left, or else you wouldn't be working with him. So talk about him a little bit.
Oh no, I really do, and I'll tell you, like, and I don't want to make excuses, but I just want to put it in context. When he fought for the title against Janibek, his best friend was killed right before the fight, like right before the fight. So he obviously went in with a, horrible mindset. Like, he didn't care. He still talks about it. Like, the guy was a really close friend, and it was just on his mind. So, I mean, he may not have beaten Janibek anyway, especially at that point, but I'm just saying it's a factor. But now I noticed right from the very first training session, we hit it off. I think it's similar to Beterbiev in that he likes the fact that I was a fighter myself, and I can relate to him on that level. He likes that. We've had fights together. He fought Steve Rolls his last fight, and it worked. Like, it's one thing. I lucked out, and I can't say luck. It was by design, but it's good when you can show your fighter that you can help them, that you show them something. Like, it's one thing if I train a guy and then he goes in and wins the fight, but he doesn't do anything that I taught him. You say, well, I was just the corner man. I just gave him water, but he really didn't do anything that I told him, right? But for the last fight, we worked on something very, very specific, very perfectly specific, and that ended the fight. That's how he stopped his opponent. So we got closer because of that. Because we were both like, man, it's awesome. Like, just we were working on it in the dressing room before the fight, before we went out. So we kind of bonded over that. It's funny the way trainers and boxers are. So we bonded over that. So we have a good relationship. We established ourselves with each other. He's shown me he wants to work 100%. He does. He's never, ever, ever, ever said no to anything I've asked him to do. Even just today, he just left like a half an hour ago, right before you and I got on the air. He just left, and we were talking. And after the workout, at the end of the workout, he was huffing and puffing, like he was really out of breath. And I'm telling him, like, how many times have you really been out of breath in the gym? Hardly ever. Like, you hardly ever see guys training and they're actually out of breath. I go, you're supposed to be out of breath. Like, this is what we're supposed to be. This is the level you're supposed to reach in training, so that for a fight, you don't have to reach that level. You can win the fight without getting exhausted. And because if you don't get exhausted in training, you're going to get exhausted in the fight for sure. And so he likes the way I talk to him as a fighter. And I think he's got a lot left in the tank. And I think he showed that in both of his last 2 fights. And the kid he's fighting now is like 17-1. He's popular up in Montreal. It's a big fight in Montreal. If you remember back in the day, I think you'll remember this, in Chicago, John Collins and Lenny LaPaglia, they fought each other.
Yep.
Back then it was like, Chicago was a fight town, and you had 2 top middleweights, and it's an ethnic thing. You got the guy, one of them's Italian, one of them's Irish, and
Stevie
like
Collins,
and that's kind of like what this fight's going to be in Montreal. So there's a reason to tune in. There's going to be extra in the air in the audience, and I think it's a big fight. For Montreal, it's a huge fight.
And Butler, it's a big deal too, because Butler's from Canada, but he relocated to train with you because he's in Connecticut, right?
Right. Yes.
So that's some sacrifice. I know he's married. He's got kids. So
yeah,
that must say
shows
something to you.
That's what, when he explained to me what he was doing, I said to myself, I really got to give this kid my all because he's not visiting me. You know what I mean? He's living here. He moves here to train with me. So that's a lot of pressure. You know, I don't feel pressure, but it's a lot of pressure, you know, being put on me, and I take it serious. So I owe him because he's coming out of his way to train specifically with me. So I owe him for sure.
And switching gears, and that fight is June 6th on ESPN. But
Yeah.
switching gears, I think everybody should make sure they go to your Facebook page because you post a lot of boxing stuff, and you just had a picture of Thomas the Hitman Hearns signing a belt that
Yeah.
you're going to put up for auction. And you and I have talked about this a lot before, but you do these auctions to raise money for fighters that are in need. And it's really, I knew you from years ago from training Chad Dawson, but I connected with you because of the work that you do for these fighters. The one with Tommy Hearns, who else has signed that belt, and when is that going to be auctioned?
Okay, listen, this one is so awesome, right? I can't even think of everybody, but it's like I know David Tua signed it, Aaron Barkley signed it, James Toney signed it, Vinny Pazienza, Pinklin Thomas, and that's the beautiful thing. Like, and you recognize this. I'm able to go across eras, right? I'm able to get Pazienza and Pinklin Thomas and James Toney, but also I got David Lemieux, right? And I have guys. Tommy Hearns signed it. Then I had Jimmy Paul sign it. Who, you know, nobody sees Jimmy Paul, but Jimmy Paul, former IBF lightweight champion.
Right.
You know, just man, it's just so crazy. Milton McCrory signed it. Macho Camacho Jr. I even had the rapper Roxanne Shante, who's a
Right.
huge
Oh, you had her.
fan of
Oh,
boxing.
man.
Roxanne Shante signed it because she's always at the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, and you know she never misses, and she's a big fan of boxing. She's a supporter of boxing. She likes what I do. Me and her have developed kind of a friendship, and she likes what I do, and she's told me that, and so I had her sign it. And like I say, James Toney signed it, Camacho Jr. I got Wayne McCullough to sign it when I was in Vegas. He signed it. Tim Witherspoon signed it. I mean, there's literally like 27, 30 names on it, I think. And after this weekend, I'm gonna have Bobby Ches sign it. I'm either gonna see him tomorrow or Saturday. I'm gonna have him sign it. And a few other guys. It's gonna be something. And I'll say this: the last time I had one like that, I sold it for over $5,000, $5,200. This one is better than that one. This one is got more star power, a more diverse, eclectic group of guys. I just got to find the right person, but I'm gonna hold out till I get what it's worth for sure.
Well, that might be out of my price league, but right above my head, there's a couple of gloves that I got from you that were signed by fighters. I have a beautiful giant picture of Vinny Pazienza that someone painted that he signed. What made you want to do this? And I just want to explain too that this money goes to fighters in need. I mean, like Wilfred Benitez is one, Gerald McClellan is another, but I know you have a list of fighters that you probably won't even say who their names are. But what made you want to do this to raise money for these former fighters who are in need?
You know, it's just like it's just a no-brainer to me. Like it's just
Yeah.
guys that are friends. You know, I knew Gerald as an amateur, and I looked up to Wilfred and different guys, and it just seemed like a logical thing to do because I think I've told you this before, but how it started was I had heard that Wilfred Benitez was having some trouble. He needed money for something specific. Yeah. And I remember and I'm not a memorabilia collector. I'm not an autograph guy. I could have had thousands of autographs, but I never got them. It just didn't appeal to me, but I know people are into it. So I had somebody gave me it might have been Roy Jones or somebody, a picture. So I said, man, I could probably have Roy sign this and I could sell it for $50 and give it to Wilfred. And I did, and I sold it for like 350. And I said, man, that was so easy. So I had a poster and I had somebody sign it. And then I had a book and I had this. And I said, man, this is so easy. This is ridiculous. I could help these guys out. And I'm not busy. I'm not all that busy. So I just started doing it. And then before I knew it, I had people who I don't even know. I don't know these people. And they contact me and they go, hey, send me your address. I'll send you a pair of gloves signed by, Muhammad Ali. I'll send you, a guy sent me a pair of gloves signed by Mike Tyson. Just guys on the internet. They send me stuff all the time. I have stuff in my room waiting that I haven't even gotten around to putting up yet. And it's just amazing. They've restored my faith in humanity because I've had people just voluntarily, and I'm like, man, you sure you want to give me this? This is a really nice piece. And they're like, no, I know it's going to help fighters. You can have it. I'll mail it to you. And and then I have people spending. I had a guy. I sold something this morning. I believe, I forget. I think it was $450. I think the guy sent me for a signed autograph. Just an autograph, and it's amazing. It's easy. It's easy. I could do this in my sleep. So, and I realize when I give the money, I'm not giving $1 million. Sometimes I'm giving 50, sometimes I'm giving 200, sometimes I'm giving 1,500, but on average, maybe $80, right? And the fighters and their families are so appreciative that I realize they really needed this. Like, they're more happy than they should be for $50. You know what I mean? So they need it. My friends are willing to give it in terms of money and of items. So it works hand in hand. I can sell stuff and I can find people to buy it and give the money. It's really been good.
And is it only on Facebook, and where can people find you on Facebook for this?
I have 2 Facebook pages. I've never actually looked. I don't know if there's any others in my name, but the ones that are mine are John the Iceman Scully. The Iceman is one word, and then the other one is Iceman John Scullys. Those are my 2 pages, and I just put stuff up. You can if you and I have 5,000 friends on each. So that's the limit, but you can follow me. There's a follow button, and it's just like being my friend. And you can comment on the thing. So you'll notice on both pages I put stuff up. It's usually magazines, books, posters, or pictures, or gloves. And I put it up, and what happens is I'll put it up, and I'll put the minimum bid, and I usually say like bananas, or because Facebook is trying to crack down. They're trying to shut people down from selling stuff like that. So I can't call it dollars. I got to call it bananas, or, cupcakes, or whatever.
Oh, the clams. Didn't they used to call it clams? Like
clams for a
50
while.
clams.
Well, it depends on what the item is, So like if it's an Italian guy, I'll be like, 27 strombolis, but it's fun because I try to make it fun. I challenge, like you'll bid $50 and some guy will bid 60, and I'll be like, oh man, you don't want to. I wouldn't take that if I was you, man. The guy outbid you like that. It was like nothing, like you were nobody. And they're like, oh yeah, how about $100? I said, oh, now we're talking. They go, and the guy will be like 150. I go, oh, man, I don't know if you're up for this challenge today. And before you know it, everybody's battling back and forth, and they don't want to let it go. And I've had guys message me and go, listen, man, I don't care if I'm here all night. This guy's not beating me. And I go, okay, keep it going. So I keep it going. I make it like fun, And sometimes what I do to switch it up and to really engage with people, I'll put something up and I say, okay, everybody Venmo me $2. Just $2. Venmo me. And when I get the right amount of money, I'm going to do a drawing live. And I'll put everybody's name in a hat. And I'll have somebody, draw it, my wife or somebody, and I'll have them draw it. and pick the winner. And that's how we do it. So I make it fun and let people kind of interact with me, and we can get some money for some fighters who need it. And if people are watching don't understand, Wilfred Benitez, Gerald McClellan, and Pritchard Colon, I'll put it this way: all three of them are in the same exact boat.
Yeah.
If you left them alone for a month, they would die.
Yeah.
They cannot feed themselves. They cannot walk in some cases. They would not know how to get the food so they could eat it. They need help 24 hours a day. So the families, the sister, the mother, they can't work because they cannot leave these guys alone. They have to be taken care of. They have to be turned in bed so they don't get bed sores. They are at that point. So that is why I do what I'm doing.
And what you do, it's something that I admire, and it's something that when I think about the sport of boxing itself, it's one of the things I hate, that the sport of boxing doesn't help its own more. These fighters who, you guys, you were a fighter, so you guys literally, you get punished every time you fight, every time you train, and to see how a lot of these guys, men and women, turn out, it's heartbreaking. And I'm just, I'm happy that you are doing something that really, it's special, man.
Thank you. Listen, but you know what would be really special? The other day, Ryan Garcia gave the commission, or whoever he gave the money to, the penalty, some of that money, like we're talking like $1.5 million because he was overweight. So that's money that wasn't in the mix before. It was only in the mix that day because he lost the weight. They didn't know they had it. He's got to pay the commission or whatever, and he's got to pay the other fighter. But you're telling me they can't take $100,000 out of that?
That's my point.
And do you know what? If you gave, and think about this, and I'm talking to Mayweather, and I'm talking, Jake Paul wants to give back, right? Listen, I got Jake Paul. I don't know you. I've never met you. Maybe you heard of me. Maybe you did. Maybe you don't like me. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I'll tell you this much, Jake Paul. And if anybody knows Jake Paul, let him know I said this. If you gave $1,000 a month to Wilfred Benitez, Pritchard Colon, and Gerald, two things would happen. One, you wouldn't even miss it. It would be like me losing a penny. I wouldn't know it was gone. But them, it would be like you gave them $1 million every day. It would be huge for them, what they could do with $1,000. And he may not think it's big money because he's on a different financial level at this point. Believe me, like $1,000 a month to him is nothing. Believe me when I'm telling you, to these people, $1,000 is huge. You might as well give them $1 million. It's huge. So Jake Paul, if you want to be ingratiated into the game, I've got the perfect method for you. And you don't even have to, if you don't want to do it publicly, do it privately. I'll give you the address. But you can change these people's lives easily with the snap of your fingers.
You know what, John? And Jake Paul, I do know a little bit about him. He has been very giving with fighters. He's had some fights that have been called off, but he still paid the fighters on the undercards.
I heard
because
that.
As you know, you guys don't get paid till the fight is over. He's been very beneficial to Amanda Serrano. So what you will about him.
Let me say this, because I've been critical, right? I will tell you, I respect Jake Paul tremendously for doing that. I respect that. Promoters don't generally do that. So I'm going to give you your props where they're due. They are due 100%. But like I say, this is something. The expression "a little bit goes a long way." $1,000. I know to you, Jake Paul, $1,000 is nothing. Believe me when I tell you, to Gerald McClellan and Wilfred Benitez and Pritchard Colon, it would be like winning the lottery every month. It would be phenomenal. So I'll just throw that out there.
Well, I'm going to do my best to see if Jake Paul will see this. What you're doing, have you thought about, or have people approached you about ways to make this bigger? Because, it seems like such an important thing that not enough people are doing. Is there a way to maximize this? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, I'll tell you this much. In life, man, life is cruel sometimes. Life is crazy.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine I used to box with back in the day. He graduated with my brother 5 years before I did. He used to be an amateur boxer, and he was a fireman and everything. He calls me one day, and he likes what I do. He actually bought a few things off me, gloves and stuff. And he said to me, man, you should be a 501c3. And I said, I don't really know. I know you got to pay for that. And he goes, listen, I want to help you get one, and I'll pay for it. I'll pay for the lawyer to do it and everything. And we had a meeting with a guy, and everything was great. He was planning on doing it, and he passed away about 6 weeks ago. Just totally, he was only 61 years old. Totally unexpected. He passed away. And, it's just horrible. He's a good friend of mine, but without him, I really don't know what I'm doing. And I know I've been told that having the 501c3 is annoying, and it's difficult because you have to, you got to do the taxes, and every year you got to start over. You got to do the paperwork over, and they everything is under a microscope. And the way I do it now, it's not huge money, it's not millions, but it's easy. It's just so easy. I could just I sell it, you send me the check, I send it to you, you tell me you got it, I mail a check, and that's it. If I could get someone to help me, like be in an organization, I'd be all for it. I would love to do it. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to New York. Iran Barkley has a group called Friends of the Champ, FOTC, and they're doing a boat ride around Manhattan. Leaves from City Island, goes around all the way up to the Statue of Liberty and back. And I think Iran's going to be there. June Jones, Bobby Ches, Aaron Davis. I think Tim Witherspoon might be coming in. So Iran does similar stuff. And the money raised for tomorrow night is going to go to help fighters as well.
Do you have any more information about tomorrow? What time? Because I'm sure there's people listening that are around the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area.
Oh, it's good. Listen, the views, I went on it last year, and it's fans and it's the fighters. Last year it was Michael Spinks was there, and Jeff Chandler, and the views that you see from the water of Manhattan at nighttime, it's like being in a Batman movie, and you see that backdrop and the lights. It's that alone is worth the money. But they have food, they have all the fighters, and you're hanging out. There's dancing on the top. You could go. The best thing to do. I don't go to any particular site just because I'm involved with it through texting with Iran and stuff. So if you go and you Google Friends of the Champ boat cruise for the date tomorrow, I'm sure you could find it. There's a flyer online that you could do, and actually I could text you the flyer. It's on my Facebook page. If you go to my Facebook page and scroll down a little bit, anybody listening, if you go to ICEMAN John Scully Facebook page and scroll down, you'll see the flyer for the boat ride.
Well, that's where people should go because
and you can buy the tickets right on the flyer. There's a Venmo address, and you can send the money right now, and automatic. And it's really good. It's fun. It's real. My wife is coming with me. We went last year, dancing up on the top, right outside in the glare of the lights of the city. You're dancing in the East River. It's pretty cool.
Well, the weather's supposed to be good tomorrow too, because it hasn't been nice, but the weather's supposed to be good too.
Right.
Scully, I don't want to beat on this, but there are some people philanthropic people who I know there must be people out there who want to help with what you're doing, because I can't stress enough that fighters don't have pensions. A lot of fighters, it's like the story of boxing. It's the story of boxing that a lot of these guys are broke when they're finished fighting.
Well, you know what it is? I think people don't realize, because athletes, they have pensions and boxers don't have that. So these guys, when they make, they make $150,000 for a fight, and you say, man, it's pretty good, man, 150,000. But listen, that money goes quickly. I mean, it's, you chop that up over 12 months and give a certain amount every month for bills and car insurance and rent and, the mortgage and all these different things. That money goes fast. And unfortunately, I could tell you, which I won't, I could tell you so many world champions that if you saw them, you would beg for their autograph and to take a picture with them. And they have nothing. They have no money, and you don't even know it. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. And, and they're not bad people. A lot of guys, these are not people that are on drugs. They didn't waste it on drugs. It's not that type of thing. It's just that the money ran out and they've devoted their lives to boxing. These aren't people who can become accountants now. They can't go to college and become an accountant. That's just not who they are. They devoted their lives to boxing, and they may have miscalculated, whatever it is, but the money did not last. And so I try to help some of those guys who are friends of mine who I don't advertise because people don't know their situation, and they don't tell people that they're not out there letting people know, hey, I'm broke, So I help those guys, but believe me, there's a lot of them. There's more. Unfortunately, there's a lot more fighters in need than you would think.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And it's not only being broke. Like the guys you mentioned, they have just debilitating physical and mental issues. It's the damage.
That's the thing I wanted to stress. Like people might say, oh, well, Gerald McClellan, he's only 55, and what are we talking about? Listen, man, Gerald McClellan cannot take care of himself. He needs help being cleaned after he uses the bathroom. I mean, you gotta understand, like his fight with Nigel Benn ruined him. Like if he could do it, he would, but he can't. Like these are people who cannot. They are at your mercy. You understand? They're at your mercy. They have nothing. They cannot take care of themselves. Gerald McClellan, like I have to say it in brutal terms so people can really grasp what I'm saying. I try to go for the most impactful vision, right? Gerald McClellan, Pritchard Colon, Wilfred Benitez. If you leave them alone, they will die. They need someone to take care of them. That takes money, because if I'm taking care of somebody 24 hours a day, I can't go to work. You're mad at me because I'm not working, but I can't work because I can't leave these guys alone. They have to be taken care of. They have to be turned so they don't get bed sores. They have to be fed. They have to be cleaned after they use the bathroom. The families have given up everything to take care of them. And, they've given up their social lives. They've given up their careers. I mean, it's insane, the situation. And, they don't demand your help, but it would be appreciated for sure.
Yeah, those people are saints, and especially, all of them are, but Lisa McClellan comes to mind. Just, they all do so much and they sacrifice so much.
Yvonne Benitez, Wilfred's sister, she's been taking care of him since she was in her 30s. She's a young lady. She wasn't going out on dates. She wasn't going to the movies. She's home taking care of him. And, and Nieves Cologne, Pritchard's mom, it's her son. It's her baby. And you can look at the videos online. They're on YouTube where she's taking care of him and she's trying to stand him up, to see if he could stand on his own. And he's up against the wall trying to balance himself. And, that's her baby, and she's taking care of him. And, and I saw a thing, and just so people know, in case they saw this, there's a video online of him supposedly hitting the heavy bag. And everybody's like, man, it's amazing, his recovery. And
I saw that.
And I talked to her. That's not him.
I know.
That's not him. She told me, she said, no, he can't hit a heavy bag. Trust me, he can barely stand. And if he stands, he's got to be held so he doesn't fall. That's not him hitting the heavy bag. That's somebody who looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of a cruel thing. I don't know if they meant it to be cruel, but they put that up there, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he doesn't need that much help." Trust me, that's not him.
Well, make sure you go to John Scullys' Facebook accounts. He's got 2 of them because I got some cool stuff. Like I said, I've got gloves right over my head that were signed by some fighters. And Scully, I've been meaning at some point I'm going to get to your gym. I've got a bunch of old Russell Peltz posters, like from back in the 70s and 80s, and I want to bring some of those to you. I'm sure you can get them signed by fighters, and hopefully that'll help. But listen, I want a couple of people had questions, and then I'm going to let you go because I've had you on for an hour. But Pradeep Singh says, Iceman, if you're teaching a kid boxing today, what's the one thing he should focus on? Also, Beterbiev once said he's always wanted to avenge the Usyk loss that was in the amateurs. Any desire, does he want that fight?
I've never heard him ever talk about moving up in weight. And a lot of people don't know, but they always forget or they don't know that he actually beat Usyk one time.
Yeah.
They fought more than once, and he beat Usyk, but he dropped Usyk with body shots in that fight. But Arthur's never said anything to me about moving up, even up to cruiserweight. It's never. But one thing about Arthur, he doesn't look ahead at all. Like he always, like if you ask him, what about this? He goes, listen, I'm fighting this guy. That's all I'm concerned with. And that's the way you should be. And what was the first question?
The first one was, if you were teaching a kid boxing today, what's the one thing he or she should focus on?
On the boxing end, the jab. And I always tell kids this, and I want to stress it to them. Not having a jab or not having a good jab is like being a basketball player who can dunk and he can pass and he can do all these amazing things, but he cannot dribble. If you cannot dribble, you cannot play basketball, period. It doesn't matter how good your dunks look. It means nothing. If you don't have a good jab, you should not be a boxer because you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught sooner or later. But in the grand scheme of things, the one thing I would tell any boxer, but especially a young boxer who's able to be influenced, conditioning is the most important thing by far, not just a little bit, by far.
Yeah.
The conditioning, you have to be in top shape, because if you have good skills and talent, but you're way out of shape, you're going to lose. But if you don't have good skills, but you're in phenomenal shape, you can still win if you really want to. If you want to, I remember fights in the amateurs. There were guys that I know were better. They were more talented than me. They had more skills, especially at the time. But I beat them. You know why? Because I really wanted to. It was as simple as that. I was in shape to really overcome them. I didn't overcome them with skill. I overcame them with the desire to not lose, not even win, to not lose. And that burned in me. You have to have conditioning 100%. The rest is just gravy, because if you have great skills but no conditioning, you're going to be useless. Believe me.
It's funny too. I had just had a conversation with Kelly Pavlik, former middleweight champ, and he said the same thing that you just said about strength and conditioning, because he's in great shape now. He's taking care of himself, and he got into powerlifting, but he really talked about strength and conditioning, how that might be, besides the fundamentals, that's the most important thing, because if it's like a car, if you don't have a good engine, it's not going to go far. So he was mirroring exactly what you said.
Right, 100%.
Drag Killer says, question for Scully. If you could create a perfect fighter, it said what difference, but I'm going to say what would be, if you could create a perfect fighter, what would that fighter be? I guess that's what he was trying to say. What attributes would that fighter have?
Well, the things that make a truly great fighter are the things that he has to have inside him, right? Other than the jab, right? You want to have a good jab. You want to be a good body puncher. A body puncher is underrated. Hurting somebody in the body is a must. But you have to have the attitude and the mentality of a fighter. And there are most human beings don't have it. And people come in the gym, and I can tell there's certain people, I could train them for one day, and I could train them on conditioning drills, and I can tell by how they respond if they would want to be a fighter or not. And some people, they simply want to be a fighter only because it's cool to say, and it's cool to be a fighter. But when they find out what it actually entails and what it means to actually be a fighter, they don't want to be a fighter anymore. And I've seen guys literally quit. They wanted to be a fighter. They got a tattoo of a glove on their shoulder. But then when it came time to realize what it really takes to be one, they realized this isn't for me. It looks too easy on TV. This isn't for me. So I don't care about a guy's flashy and he's fast and all this stuff. I want what's inside, the mentality. Because if you don't have it, it doesn't matter how what I mean, like in basketball, how many guys, you could go to any playground in any inner city in this country, and you could find 10,000 guys who, on the eye test, they look like Allen Iverson. You go, this kid awesome. Look at this guy. Why isn't this guy in the NBA? But then you bring him to a training camp and you find out why. Because he has no desire to push himself beyond his limits. And then you get a guy like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I use Kobe. You use Kobe's mentality, the Mamba mentality, and what he did to get himself ready for the season. I've seen interviews with NBA players, recognizable names, who said, they admitted, I don't have what Kobe has. Kobe wanted to be beyond great. He wanted to be the best ever. And he was training for 3 hours before any of us woke up in the morning. He was training at 4. We got up at 7 to do drills. He was already done. And they admitted we didn't want it that bad. We wanted it bad, and we thought bad enough was good enough, but he took it to another level. Now, that's what Arthur is. Arthur Beterbiev.
I was going to say that.
That's what Arthur is 100%. And Bernard Hopkins, all indications of Bernard's training and mentality, is the only guy I've ever heard of that was really on par with Arthur's training and mentality.
Well, that Mamba mentality, are there other fighters in the game today right now? And it might be hard because you're not in their camps, but are there any other fighters that you see that could have that same kind of Mamba mentality you talked about?
Just assuming, I would say probably Crawford does. I would think he does. His results point to that.
Yeah.
In a way, it wouldn't surprise me. I know Pacquiao was at that level. They said he would eat like 5,000 calories a day. Now, what that tells me is he was training hard enough to burn them off. You can't eat 5,000 calories a day and be ripped like him unless you're training in a manner that's going to burn that off, right? Other people become fat when they do that. You know what I mean? So him, I think I would say Pacquiao, obviously, and I'm sure Floyd at the end of it all, that's who he is. But I'll say I don't think it's common. You would think, like when I was a kid, I thought all fighters trained like Arthur trains now. I thought everybody was an animal. But then as I'm in the gym over the years, I'm like, wow, like this guy's really good, but he's only doing like 10 push-ups. He's not really working that hard, and I'll tell you who did work hard. I could vouch. Vinny Pazienza. I've trained with Vinny. Vinny trained like a maniac. like he was unusual. Vinny was on that level, on that Arthur level. Vinny could train with Arthur, and Arthur would say, okay, I'm impressed. I think he would have impressed Arthur with his mentality.
All right, I got one more for you, and then I'm going to let you go. But TBR, my man Riaz says, question for Iceman. In your opinion, who is the greatest fighter or fighters to never win a world championship?
I'll tell you that there's two guys I've sparred with of the 1,000 plus people that I've sparred. Eric Harding and Lamar Parks always come to mind. Eric was such a good boxer, smart, reflexes, just good skills, natural ability. Eric Harding should have been a world champion, and Lamar Parks for his speed and power, unbelievable power and skills. Lamar Parks should have been a world champion, and Eric Harding should have been on the world, on a level where guys that didn't box. I think it's a crime. It's a shame Harold Graham never became a world champion. Harold Graham was a phenomenon. Harold Graham was a beast, and he never cut him. By the time he got there, he had to fight Charles Brewer, who was young, strong puncher, good fighter, and he had Brewer down twice. I was at that fight. I sparred with Charles for the fight, and he had Charles down twice, and but Charles overcame him. But Harold Graham, was a top elite fighter. He had the skills of any world champion. There's no world champion that had more skills than Harold Graham, but he just didn't make it.
Well, listen, man, I want to thank you for your time and remind people to go to your Facebook page. You said there's two, right? Can you give me the names of them again on Facebook?
John, the Iceman, and the Iceman is one word, Scully, and then Iceman John Scully. And I think it's like Iceman, it has a dash, John Scully. And what could people do? They could send me a message, just say, hey, I got your page from seeing you on George's show, and then I'll know, and then I can work it out where I can delete, because I have a few common friends on both pages. I can delete some of them and make room to add people as a friend. But if they can't become my friend, they can follow me. And like I say, scroll down and you'll see stuff that I put up and stuff I will be putting up for auction.
Well, it's definitely worth it, and I can't think of a better cause to help fighters who really need it. But I appreciate your time. And June 6th, hopefully I'll talk to you before then, but June 6th, I'm looking forward to seeing Stephen Butler fight on ESPN. You're training him. I'm looking forward to that fight. And Scully, in a couple of days, in 2 days, we're going to have an undisputed heavyweight champion. So that's not a bad thing for the sport.
Hey, we're in a good place this week for sure.
Yeah. All right, brother. I appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Be good. All right.
All right, man.
Yes, sir.
The great John Scully. Man, I could talk to that guy all day. Mike Leonardo, great to see the Iceman back. He really is I mean, what he does for these fighters who not only need money, they need care. Like he mentioned three: Pritchard Colon, Wilfred Benitez, and Gerald McClellan, who just need help. They need help, and boxing doesn't help its fighters. The sport of boxing does not help its fighters when they're done fighting, and it's a shame. I mean, I've interviewed fighters who are still fighting, who are showing the damage of the sport, and you just wonder, like, how are they going to be in 20 years? So make sure you go check out John Scully on Facebook, because like I said, these gloves right above my head right there, those are signed gloves that I got from him by fighters, and all the money goes to the fighters. So definitely make sure you check that out. I have a giant picture too that someone painted of Vinny Pazienza, who signed it. Vinny Paz, he's Vinny Paz now. So I'm trying to find room on my wall. My boxing stuff is kind of limited to my office, but I'm trying to get it into some other rooms. But yeah, Iceman is a great guy. What I was saying is I met him, man, 15 years ago when Chad Dawson fought Andre Ward. I was in Chad Dawson's, we did a 24/7-1 show for that fight, and I was with Chad Dawson in Connecticut, and then he moved his camp over to Las Vegas. So I got to know Scully, and I stayed in touch with him over the years. And really, the reason why I got closer with him is because all this work that he does with fighters. So, and even this poster right over my head, it's a Jeff Chandler. And if you don't know who Jeff Chandler is, look him up. But I've got a lot of posters that I want to give to him that can be signed and can raise money for fighters that need it. But I can't wait. We got 2 days We got 2 days, and we're gonna have an undisputed heavyweight champion. Scully is leaning towards Fury. I'm leaning towards Usyk, and I will not put any money. I won't put $1 on the fight. But my opinion is that Fury, I don't buy all the fighting down to his opposition. I think he's declining. And I think if you look at his resume, it's not a great resume. Besides Klitschko and maybe Wilder, it is not a great resume. And I think that at the end of the day, Usyk's going to be undisputed. And the great thing is, this fight, the card starts at noon, and I think that main event is supposed to walk at around 6 o'clock. So it'll be just like when I was a kid watching fights during the afternoons. Didn't have to stay up till midnight or 2 in the morning. So by 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, we could have we could have a undisputed heavyweight champion. Although a lot of people are saying this fight's going to be a draw. I don't think so, and I'm sorry that I didn't get some more questions in for the Iceman, but I really only wanted to have him on for about 40 minutes, but we were on for an hour because he just came from a training session with Stephen Butler. So, but yeah, Mr. Lightning, that's my point. There's a lot of money flowing through boxing. I agree. They should take care of our boxing people in need, and they don't. Boxing, the sport of boxing, just they don't do it. And of course, they do need better financial advisors, especially in boxing. But just the sport itself, because there's no pension, because anyone can become a professional fighter if you pass physicals and you pass neurologicals and you pay to get your you pay to get a license, you can get a license. You can't just, I can't wake up tomorrow and say I'm going to become a Major League Baseball player. I'm going to sign some forms, go to a doctor. I can't become a football player or a baseball player or a basketball player, but in boxing you can. So it's a different sport. Oh, that's right. And we got Navarrete fighting as well. So we got fights on at night. So we'll have the fights on it during the day. Navarrete is probably going to win a belt at night. So, man, Saturday is a good day of boxing. I'm looking forward to it. In about 13 minutes, the second Tyson Jake Paul pressers on, and I hear Scully. If you didn't listen, Scully's down. He hates these things. He thinks they're sideshows, and I agree to him to a certain point. But I'm interested in Tyson. And that second press conference is probably on Netflix. I was at the first one at the Apollo. A lot of people were complaining because of the stare down. Tyson was laughing and kind of tickling Jake Paul, and people were saying, oh, they missed an opportunity. He should have been meaner. Tyson's 57, 58. And it's also 2 months before the fight. So Mike Tyson probably isn't taking Jake Paul seriously, but let's see the week of. If the fight is still on and no one gets hurt before in training and the fight's still on, let's see the week of the fight if Tyson is still Mr. Smiley and playing with Jake the way he did now. Remember, it's 2 months before. It's 2 months before. So people are like, oh, this was a bad look. Well, first of all, you could say this fight is a bad look. But Jake Paul, I'm going to try and get this message out to someone who knows Jake Paul, because what Scully does is help fighters in need. And Jake Paul, for whatever you say, he seems to be serious about boxing and he helps fighters. And I respect that. I respect that. I'm about to get out of here myself. But TBR, my man, what are your thoughts on getting a national commission created like the one Teddy Atlas is advocating for? Yes, of course, like everyone else. We all know the answer, and that's the answer, but there's no solution. There's no solution because boxing won't come together to do that. The organizations won't all come together and say, let's form one real entity. They're not going to do it. Suleiman and all those other clowns, they want to collect their commissions. So they're not going to do it. Zach, he was testing his body shot. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna watch the 6:30 presser as well. But make sure you hit the like button. So I don't know, man. I was thinking about doing a live after the fight, but I know Pro Box is going to be doing it. They got like 100,000 people subscribe. I've got almost 8. Oh, I said this before. For my 8,000 subscriber, I'm giving away a gift. Ring Magazine, May 1992, James Toney on the cover, Fighter of the Year. So smash that like button, subscribe. The 8,000 subscriber, I don't even know how to verify that, to be honest. But if I can figure it out, that 8,000 subscribers is going to get this Ring Magazine from May of 1992. Although I don't know if I want to give this away because it's got a poster of Marvin Hagler in there that can go up on somebody's wall. So that's that. That's going to go to the 8,000 subscriber. And again, I have no idea how to even tell who the 8,000 subscriber is, but I think I have 7,960 some odd subscribers. So I appreciate everyone who subscribed. This is it's just boxing talk, and we talked a little Tyson, Fury Usyk. We talked Tyson Paul. We even talked Cobbs and Broner. So I figured we were talking about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So Cobbs and Broner, I'm not looking forward to the fight, but I am looking forward to the press conferences, and the one today was pretty interesting. So make sure you like, subscribe, and I got some more coming at you. Oh, the next one. So my family, they know a little bit about boxing, but I'm going to ask my family their picks. So it's going to be a short video, but the next one I'm doing, my family is going to give their picks for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Is it going to be Tyson Fury? Is it going to be Alexander Usyk? You want to talk to some people who know? That's my wife. I got 3 kids. We have 4 kids between us, but I'm asking my wife and my youngest daughter. They're going to give their picks to who's going to be undisputed, and I will too. TVR, do it anyway, brother. Your post-fight commentary so we can hear your interpretation and reaction to the fight. We appreciate it. Listen, I appreciate people. I always say, as long as I have 2 people watching, man, that's a lot to me, because I've done these. When I wasn't paying attention to doing this and I would jump on, I would be talking for 15 minutes and look, and there would be nobody watching. So Adam Hurley's got Fury with a knockout. We'll see. That's why they have to fight the fights. I mean, Fury certainly looks to be in shape, but it's weird. Without his shirt on, he looks in shape. Now watch, when he takes his shirt off, he's going to look like he always does. He's just not, he's not physically cut, but he's a big dude. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the fight. We got fights, like I said. We got that fight. I just keep talking because there's people in here. Like, if people just start dropping out, maybe I'll leave. But people are still here and actually taking time to listen to what I'm saying. But 6:30 in 7 minutes, I will be watching the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul press conference. And I'm sorry, Netflix. It's Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. They're calling it Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. That's the only thing they've done wrong, because I know Jake Paul's company is promoting. But it's Mike Tyson. It's Tyson versus Paul. Let's get that right. Smash the like button. Keep subscribing. Man, we got gifts. We got gifts to the 8,000 subscriber. See, the number just went up to 35 people in there. 8,000 subscriber gets this. It's not signed, but it's a May 1992 copy of Ring Magazine that can be yours to the 8,000 subscriber. So there you go. All right, that's it. That's my time. It's an hour and a half. And man, shout out to those guys that do these like 5-hour long shows. But like, subscribe. We're going to talk some more boxing